I don't think he really needs an introduction. This is head coach and athletic director of the Gilmer Buckeyes, Gilmer High School, Coach Matt Turner. He's going to talk about the upcoming football season and some everything else they've got going on up there. It's not just football, but I'll let him talk on it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
All right. Hello, good to see everybody. I want to thank you for the opportunity, Troy. Thank you for inviting me. And, meal was delicious as always, and just the fellowship. This room's a good room to be in. A lot of good people, a good vibe in this room. And this is Gilmer, and that's a great place to be. That's where I love to be, and feel very privileged to be able to live and work and raise my family, and very proud of that, and glad for that. So just a little bit, I guess it seems like I was here a year ago, but I'm still going to kind of tell you a little bit about me. I guess I got a few new faces out there that may have not been there, but again, I'm Matt Turner. I'm the athletic director and head football coach here at Gilmer. I was born in Marengo, Iowa. I don't know if anybody here knows where that's at. Probably not. It's across on the road. It's in southeast Iowa. It's out there in the middle of a bunch of cornfields. But I was raised in the Midwest. I graduated from Creston High School. Went to college, junior college there in Creston for 2 years. And then transferred to Arkansas State University. And a number of things happened there that were really good for me. First, I came to know the Lord there. That was the best decision I ever made. I met my wife there. That was the second best decision I ever made. And so that's in Jonesboro. From there, I've worked in a little town outside of Jonesboro called Tree, Arkansas. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. I've been in a few places where you don't run through those towns. You'd have to go there because there's nothing really going through there. But they were great stops in my journey. Then I went from there to Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and coached for a couple of years. And it's funny, as I was growing up, I had never been to Texas. But I always wanted to, and as a teacher and a coach, that was really an interest of mine. And in Poplar Bluff, I worked for a gentleman by the name of George Short, and George was from San Antonio, Texas. Now, how he got in Poplar Bluff, I don't know, but both he and his wife, he was the head football coach and athletic director in Poplar Bluff. She taught, and she was ready to go home, which was San Antonio for them. And so George went home, and he resigned and said, Karen's ready to be back in Texas. And it was just in that moment I thought, I've always been interested in going to Texas. George said, well, okay, I know a guy in Marshall, Texas. It's looking for a junior high coach. And so I said, I'm going to do that. So I'll never forget Jill and I driving into Texas. I got to share this, especially East Texas. I've never been in Texas, don't know anyone in Texas, don't have a relative in Texas. So my image of Texas is Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, tumbleweed, mountains, big rocks, and cactus. And Jill and I look at each other when we cross Texarkana, and I go, what in the world are all these trees doing here? I said, we're in the middle of the forest. This can't be Texas. But it was. So anyway, we started teaching and coaching in Marshall, and we spent 4 or 5 years there. And then Danny Long, who was one of the coaches I coached with, got the head job in Jacksonville, Texas. And we moved there, and I coached there for about 13 years. And we hired a young guy there about 10 years in. He was from Gilmer, but he was working in Big Sandy, Texas. His name was Jeff Traylor. Man, he was a young whippersnapper, man. He had some juice. And we hired him, and he worked for us for about 3 or 4 years. And then he became the head coach in Gilmer, Texas. And I soon followed and then came and worked for Jeff. So that's kind of my journey as far as getting here. I've got a wife, Jill, I've mentioned. I've got an older daughter, Caitlin, who's married. Her name's Caitlin Cheatham. She's married, and she works in a school district down in Palestine Westwood. She works in the finance office and does payroll and stuff like that. Her husband's in the oil and gas business, kind of down around College Station. They live in Grapeland, Texas, which is just kind of south of Palestine. And I've got a son, Luke. Of course, Caitlin graduated from here, was a star, and did all those things and danced. My younger son, Luke, my other child was Luke, and he played, of course, here, went to school, and was fortunate enough to get a scholarship, went to Rice, and graduated, and was very proud of that. But, you know, it's funny when I talk to Luke, he always asks about his memories of Gilmer and the experiences he had here. I mean, it's always where our conversation always comes back to. Because these are some, you know, the memories. He said, Dad, it doesn't get any better than that. I said, well, what about the football? Luke's now at South Florida. He works for Charlie Strong and is a graduate assistant there with him in South Florida and Tampa. He goes, you know, I played in college, I coached on college. He said, it doesn't ever get better than when it was in high school. He said, that was as good as it ever gets. So I just talked to him the other day. He said, that's the purest form of all of it ever gets. You're with your friends and you're getting to play. And he said, it just doesn't get better. So that made me feel good because that's, you know, I never grew up past high school. I just kept staying there. I've been there for 37 years, plus the 4 that I actually was. So I guess I'm 41 years into high school. I liked it so much, I stayed 41 years. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about me, you know, my belief is we have a mission statement written right above my office, and it's the one I believe in. It's based off a scripture, Colossians 3:23, and it's just in everything that I do, I'm going to give it everything I have, all my heart, as if working for the Lord, not merely for men. And that's what that's my standard. I'm working for the Lord. And Rick Albritton's the boss. He's the superintendent of schools. And the Lord's put him in that place, and I'm certainly going to respect him and do what he says. But at the end of the day, when I look at what I do, I've got to go say, Lord, did this honor you? Did this glorify you in the things that I did with my kids, my coaches, the community, teachers, all those that I deal with? So that's the guiding principle that we're going by. Do we always live up to it? No, but we're trying. And when we don't, we'll own it and fix it and then try to move on. So we're about that. Big things that we always talk about to our kids, we've got some just basic foundational principles that we teach, and ours are perfect effort. We expect kids to give everything they have. Selfless. In other words, we expect our kids to care about others and think about others and not focus on themselves. We talk about attack, which means we're going to bring some energy to what we do. In other words, we're going to bring some really intense focus to anything that we do. And then finally we talk about if we don't do it right, we do it again. And it's an important part of what we teach, I think, maybe more than anything, is understanding how to handle failure. Because we all need to know how to handle failure, don't we? That's just part of having any kind of success. You people, I'm looking at people here that have been very successful in our community. I know you guys have had your bumps in the road. You've had to keep getting up. And when it wasn't right, you just did it again to get it right. And you kept figuring it out. And to me, that may be the most important thing I teach the young men and women of our program, is that. So when they leave there, they'll have their own story to tell as they've had their bumps and bruises and their adversities that they run into. You just got to keep getting up. So we talk about those things a lot, and the fact that being successful is a process, failure is a part of it, and you've got to be able to just stay with it. It's hard, it's got a little risk to it, it's slow, but it's worth it. And again, we try to point people to the Lord in everything that we do, because we know that's what everybody really needs more than anything. So that's us, a little bit about us. Our motto this year is whatever it takes. You'll be hearing that. Now, underneath that motto, if you ever see it printed, there's a Navy SEAL trident. You'll see the trident of the Navy SEALs. It's the pin that the Navy SEAL gets when he becomes a SEAL. And the motivation for that was last spring, I was sitting at a Big Brothers get-together. It was just over here, just across here in the Jamboree grounds, and I was sitting right next to Mary Kirby. And I don't know how the conversation got to that, but the name Billy Matchin came up. And I asked Mary, I said, well, she said, you don't know him? I said, no, I've never heard that name. She said, do you know who the first Navy SEAL was that was killed in action? You know where he was from? Of course, I'm sitting there going, no, Miss Mary, I don't. She said, it's Gilmer, Texas. I'd never heard that. I said, really? She said, oh yeah. He was a graduate of Gilmer in 1957. He was a Buckeye. He was a football player. He was an honor student. She told some stories about his personality. I guess he was kind of a drag race guy that would drag race out here on 154. I guess they used to drag race out on that 154 going towards Diana from bridge to bridge. So he must have had there was a little risk to him. But he was, he graduated from here. He went into the service and became what they called back then a frog man, which was an underwater guy. And he did underwater demolition and that kind of stuff. He served his 4 years, got out, went to the University of Texas for 4 years, got his degree, I believe, and then re-entered the service during the Vietnam War. It was in '66. And that's when the SEAL program began. It was in '66. Of course, he had a particular set of skills because he was a frog man. And that's the kind of guy they were looking for. He was on the very first SEAL team that was ever created. And they deployed them in July of '66. And on August 19th, 1966, he was the point man, the lead guy of his platoon, of his team. And he went through a clearing ahead of the team as the point man alone. He engaged the enemy, and rather than retreat back and give up the position because he felt like he would have cost the entire team their life, he engaged the enemy and was killed, saving his team. Now, another interesting story about that, you don't hear the term no man left behind, dead or alive? That's where that came from, because one of his teammates on that day, although he was dead and ahead of him, went through enemy fire, got his body, and brought him back home. So from that event, that expression of no man left behind, dead or alive, it came out of that particular event that took place on August 19th in 1966 in Vietnam. And Billy Matchin, a Gilmer Buckeye, was part of that story. So our point being, Billy Matchin did whatever it took. We're going to do whatever it takes. And so that's where the trident. So when you see that, we're doing that to kind of honor him, his life, and he certainly personifies the motto of whatever it takes. So anyway, that's our motto this year. Story. So there's a little story behind the story. You can share that with some people. Got a lot of things going on right now. You've got cross country. We've got our cross country program has really exploded. Both the boys and girls. Our girls made it to the state meet last year. Our boys were really close. We usually put on a couple of really big cross country events, and they're run right back here by the intermediate and elementary school. Now, if you've ever gone to one of those, it's like the Jamboree. That'd be the best way I could describe it. I mean, there's 300 people out there, and I mean, there's people going every which way. It's kind of a neat deal. And you'll have, different age groups racing from junior high to junior high girls, junior high boys, and then high school girls and high school boys. But those events are usually real early. They run them at 7 in the morning to kind of try to avoid the heat. But our cross-country programs, our boys coach is Rusty Ivy, who does a great job. He's also our technology director. And then Mandy Simpson, who's also our head basketball coach, is the girls' coach. So they do a great job. And again, a lot of times in the morning, you might see a group of kids running. If you're up about 6:30, you'll see a group of kids trucking through, and you see a person following with a bicycle. That bicycle rider's it's usually Mandy. A lot of times Rusty's running with his boys. He'll run right in behind him. But that's going on. Of course, girls volleyball's begun. You got Kiara Jordan and Heather Barton and Brittany Jacobs are the three coaches. Kiara, of course, is from Gilmer, is a graduate of Gilmer. She's the head coach. And so they've begun playing, and I think they were in a tournament in Garland this past weekend, did real well, played some really stiff competition and did well in it, so excited to see them. And so we've got volleyball going on, and then of course football's about to get going. We've gotten through our first week of practice, went great, had really good leadership. We've got tremendous leadership out of our seniors, which is so important, and the kids are excited. We've got this week, and then Friday this week, we got Kilgore. We're going to have a scrimmage here in Gilmer, and that'll be, we'll start at 6 o'clock, the 9th and the JV will scrimmage first, and then the varsity scrimmage about 7:30. This year, kind of ironically, we've got 2 scrimmages, and they're both here. Wasn't planned that way. In fact, we're selling our Buckeye card, and if you haven't had a chance to buy one, I've got a few with me if you want to buy one, but on the front of that's a schedule. It'll say the Henderson scrimmage is away, and it was originally scheduled to be away, but they were building their press box and kind of their facility, and he felt like it'd be done, but it's not. He said, Coach, we aren't going to scrimmage here. We're not done with the instruction over here. Do you mind if we come to your place? So both of our scrimmages will be at home. So next week on Thursday, we'll have a scrimmage with Henderson here. So we'll have both. So next year we'll be away on both of them, but this year we're at home twice. So got that coming, and our first ball game is August 31st. We're playing Atlanta, up in Atlanta. And it'll be at 7:30 on the 31st, Friday the 31st. So that'll be our first ball game. I was mentioning to the guys here, Atlanta's one of the last fields that has a grass field, which is kind of unusual because, you know, I guess I'm old enough. I'm 37 years into it. Everybody was a grass field. and as Pete said, some of them were cocklebur fields. You know, in other words, you know, most of them were sometimes pretty rough. But now, I think they're one of the few grass fields left. Almost everything's artificial turf anymore. And I'll tell you, it won't be long. I think most of our baseball and softball fields will probably become that too, just because it's so much easier to keep them, and weather's not an issue and all that. So anyway, we're going synthetic when it comes to fields. So we've got that going on. So got a lot of things going on. Our district this year is new. Some of the names aren't new, but just kind of the arrangement. This year, after the realignment, we ended up, it was Gilmer, Pittsburgh, Spring Hill, Pleasant Grove, and Liberty, Idaho. That's our district in football. There's 5 schools in our district, so we had to find an additional non-district game because of that, because we're a little short on district games. Our non-district this year, as I mentioned, we're going to play Atlanta first. Our next game is Van, which will be a home game. Hadn't played them in a while. We played them in the playoffs a few years back. We then played Paris, okay, which we played them off and on over the years. Sometimes we'll play there and we'll play at Paris. Then we've got Carthage, okay, and then we've got Newton. Now that's a new one, okay. Anybody know where Newton is?
Southeast Texas.
And I see how you're shaking your head like, hey,
Yeah.
that's down there in the thicket. You got to dig through some stuff to find Newton. It's down there. It's down there by Beaumont. So anyway, that'll be an interesting trip. They've got a pretty good team. Yeah, they've got some really good players. They won the state championship last year in the division below ours. But they've got some really good. They've got most of that team back. So it'll be a good challenge. So they'll be waiting on us, and that'll be a lot of fun. So we've got that as our non-district, and then our last non-district, is Bullard. And Bullard's homecoming. That'll also be our pink out, because that's the first Friday in October. So we do a breast cancer awareness thing on that date as well. So we do that. So that's kind of our schedule. And just excited about the year. Great group of kids. Worked extremely hard. And it's important. They know how important it is to our community. You know, we know, you know, that's pretty obvious when you step out there on a Friday night, because we look up and we see a lot of our community. They're up there in the crowd. And so our kids are working really hard because they know that Friday night's an important night, and we want to put our best foot forward every time we step out there. And so they're working hard to do that. So again, thanks for the opportunity. I'd open it up right now. You may have some questions. I'd love to answer them if you got a few. You got any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you address the strength of our district this year?
As far as teams, I tell you what, it's hard to do that, just because I'm telling you, they're all pretty good. I mean, they're all very talented. The coaching is good. You know, Pittsburgh's going to have kids they're going to have a couple of really good Division I type players, and Coach Baca does a good job. Of course, Pleasant Grove won the state championship last year, and they lost some of those kiddos, but they just do a good job. You know, they just do a solid job. So they'll be a handful. Liberty Idolo is always very talented. We usually play them the first game of the year, and we're usually kind of glad to play them in the first game of the year, because they're the kind of team, as each week goes by, they get better and better and better. They're kind of one of those you want to catch in week 1, because they're usually a little rusty, and we're usually a little cleaner. We're humming a little better. This year, I guess we get them week 10. So they'll be a well-oiled machine by then. So we'll have our hands full there. And Spring Hill, Coach Mercer's doing a really good job there. They lost 5 games last year by a total of 6 points. I mean, about every loss they had was a 1 or 2 point game. They could have won. They played Pleasant Grove as well as anybody did, and they won the state championship. So it's going to be strong. You know, we really, since I've been in Gilmer, we've had a few years where the district wasn't real tough, but then we've had some years where it's real tough. And I would say this is kind of in that vein. Each week you'll have to be bringing your best, because each team's pretty strong. Yes.
How many sophomores do you think you'll have up in Washington?
You know, it's hard to tell. We'll have maybe a few more than we normally had. You just we'll just have to kind of see how it falls out. We always, obviously we always look at our upperclassmen to see if there's, they have the opportunity to make the contribution. With sophomores, we want to make sure if they're up, they're going to play quite a bit, because we don't want to leave, they're young. So really the next 2 weeks will be really pivotal in that, because this scrimmage this week and the scrimmage next week, we'll be able to make a lot more of a decision on that because we'll kind of know a little more. The one thing without having spring football, like a lot of the bigger schools have, they kind of have a chance to see their kids a little better in the spring and have a little better sense, because they actually get to play football. We do as best we can to play football, but we don't have the pads on and all that. So there's just some things we're going to see these next 2 weeks that we don't get a chance to see until these 2 weeks happen. So, but there's a chance for several of them to be a part of it, because that's a pretty talented group of kids, that sophomore class.
Have we had any move-ins, new players coming in?
We've had some, honestly, we've had a few. Well, we've had a couple juniors that have moved in, that had connections with Gilmer family-wise, and we've had several ninth and junior high kids that have kind of moved in really since probably last spring through the summer. So, we've had a few of those. Yep. That have been good additions, and we're excited about them being a part of it. So we probably had 5 or 6 kiddos that have come in, and we're excited about them being a part of what we're doing. Yep.
What about your quarterback?
Okay, we got Cade Camp, and right now Mason Hurd are both working at quarterback. Cade's the senior, of course. Right now he's that guy, but they're both. We always feel like you got to get 2 guys ready. That position's so pivotal that if we've always tried to have at least 2 or 3 that we feel pretty good about, because, like Luke's senior year, he got hurt in the 7th game, broke his ankle, and was done. Jordan Traylor stepped in, we never skipped a beat, but that's because of the same thing. We made sure both those guys are ready. So we got to get whoever's in that position, you got to get them ready to play, because you can't afford, if one goes down, that other one's got to step in, and he's got to be able to carry the load. So we feel pretty good. Both those guys are working hard and getting better, and so that's kind of where we're at right now on that level. And we've got some good young guys too, on the JV and 9th level, that I think are going to be good quarterbacks as well. So that's good to see. You never have enough good quarterbacks. Yeah, that's a pretty pivotal position for us.
You have a good receiver corps?
Got a good group of kids. I tell you, Trey Fluellen's a guy that's, we moved him from inside to outside receiver. Parker Dodd's going to work out there, and Parker's, really had a great track season this last year, hurdling and that. And he also did a lot of it this summer. He was really good. He went all the way to Des Moines, Iowa in the Junior Olympics. And It's just gonna be a good group of, those guys they really work hard, they're gonna get after it, but those two are kind of leading them. And so I don't know that we'll be as dynamic, but in terms of just, and that my ego, what does that mean? Well, I don't know if they're just as freakish as far as speed, but they're pretty good, skilled kids, and usually we've done pretty well with that kind of guy, They'll do it all. They'll block, they'll run, they'll catch, they'll do all three. So they'll have some people to throw to. Anything else? Once again, thank you so much for the invite, Troy. And again, thank you for all you do in our community. We appreciate what you do. I mean, and the support, and this is a special place. It just is. Gilmer's a special place. It's just, like I said, you can tell I've coached 37 years, 5 or 6 different places. There isn't a place like Gilmer, and I mean that in every way, in a good way. And you have a community that loves the kids, supports their kids, supports their schools. It's not, you'd like to think, and there's people in every community that do that, but I'm telling you, there's quite a love affair in this community, between this community. The school is the community. That'd be the best way I'd say it right there. There's really not a difference, and that's the way it ought to be. So thank you, because you're a big reason why that's that way. Okay, thanks.